I'm Barbara. I'm a forward deploy software engineer here at North Slope.
Hi, I'm Anjor. I'm a forward deployed engineer at North.
Do you think Foundry is harder to learn than any other suite of tools?
I don't think so. I think if you're a developer or a builder who's trying to build an end-to-end workflow, but if you only have experience in, say, back-end or front-end, you are going to, outside Foundry, you're going to struggle building the other side of your project. But in Foundry, you can do the other side a lot easier. And I think it kind of makes you a more complete developer who can build a full end-to-end workflow.
You don't need to know the depths of front-end development to do a good UI. You don't need to know the depths of the back-end to do good back-end in Foundry. It kind of extrapolates those parts. So I think that's what makes it easier. Or
yeah, and I think if you are a subject matter expertise, you can go into the depths and build a thing. But if you're not, you will get out of the box functionality that you can plug and play and build a thing that works.
I think what it can be overwhelming is just that you have so many different options. So for each part, there is at least 2 options of how to build a front end or how to transform your data. So I think that's where many people might struggle. But as you said, you don't need to use all of them. Yeah. You just need to choose one. That
maybe that's a really hard thing about Foundry, right? Like it's hard to know what not to use.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I think it's also potentially misusing a part of Foundry, like a app in Foundry for something that it's not supposed to do is where I've seen many projects. On the front end side, you can do a really bad slate in something that you could do in a very easy and maintainable workshop. I think it's the most common scenario where I've seen going this way is having a very specific idea of how a button should look like, and then just because a button needs to follow this specific guidelines, you compensate the maintainability of this product.
Yeah, I mean, I think during our time at Palantir, the word compounding got used quite a lot, and I think there is, I don't know, when we were there, it was funny, but there is some truth to it, where these different components of Foundry are interconnected, and if you use Foundry the way it's meant to, which is basically if you have a model of the world which you translate into an ontology, and then use tools that are integrated well with the ontology, like Workshop, then that unlocks a lot more value.
That's true, but I think the knowledge of use the Foundry the way it's intended to is the tricky part here, right? So I think for us coming from Palantir, we have this intuition. Yeah. We've seen Foundry develop. We know how it's used. I think that's where, for somebody completely new coming into, where the main difficulty lies. I think if you have an engineer who's let's say, data engineer and is really good at processing the data, I think they can still become a very good Foundry engineer, but they might need a guidance or overseeing of, and I'm happy to use this term, but let's say a project manager who does understand how Foundry should work and how the whole end-to-end workflow should look like. I think having this guidance can help build out the people who do not have this knowledge, but they have very deep knowledge of certain parts. Let's say, good front-end developer can still do a workshop, but they should still understand the ontology and where the data is coming from and how this part of Foundry works, or the same with the data man, an engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the problem, if you think of building an application, you can decompose it in smaller modules which have clear, distinct boundaries, and then different aspects are owned by different profiles. A data engineer is going to build a data pipeline and then not do anything else beyond that. You can do that in Foundry, but I think because it is a horizontally as well as vertically integrated platform, the boundaries are quite blurred. And sometimes you may have to go and encroach upon the other side, and I suspect that's where it breaks apart a bit, because what enables an engineer to do that is raw problem solving abilities as opposed to data engineering skills.
But do you think that can be guided? Do you think like if such person who is like very good in this one part, now they have this blurred boundary to another part they're not good at, can that be fixed with a good guidance from somebody who has like the whole?
So I have had an experience with a customer where we had built this entire end-to-end workflow, and we were trying to hand it over to them for maintenance. And they wanted us to catalog each and everything that could go wrong in the pipeline. And that was an impossible ask. And while we had an overlap period, and during that overlap period, we had a couple of incidents where the pipeline failed. It had nothing to do with Foundry, it had to do with data. But the way me and a colleague, the way we figured it out was we used other tools in Foundry, like we used Contour or some other data health, that's a good example, to go and look at the data, understand the data, what's going on, why did it break, and then have a hypothesis, prove or disprove it, and once we nail down, okay, this is the problem, then go into the pipeline and fix it. Which is, you need to be comfortable. That's what I meant about blurring the boundary, because I'm going beyond just writing Spark code. I'm using this other tool that enables me to look at the data.
And like you can then, with the time, like to answer your initial client's question of, give me a catalog of everything that goes wrong. Like this catalog can be built by, if it goes wrong one time, you can now set up a guideline so it automatically tells you this exact thing went wrong by, let's say, setting data expectation in that case, or like the other parts. So like,
and I mean, these problems and these workflows are messy, and I mean, it's no surprise that they're messy. They should be messy. I think what Foundry allows you to do is kind of have this managed mess where you diagnose it and fix it as you go. It's not a finished product. There is like an ongoing thing there.
And the new data is like new mess is going to come in that you cannot anticipate when you're building it. So that's why it's like you will have to keep working on it. When I interview Foundry engineers, what I'm looking for is, obviously they have to be a good engineer and they have to have the technical ability, but I think the important part is how well they're able to step out of their boundaries and think outside of the box. How well can they, like how creative can they be of not just using the tools I've used before, like not just following the patterns I've seen before, but how well can I approach a completely new thing and think of new solutions that I have not seen before. How creatively can I design something new? I would be curious what you...
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to problem solving. You want someone who can take a completely open-ended problem, like how do we optimize the manufacturing pipeline and build more planes or build more cars, decompose that into, okay, what are the different modules or different aspects of the problem that need solving, and then eventually actually translate it into a code or a front-end widget or button or whatever that will let you get to that goal. And I think this kind of breaking down a problem and building those small pieces and then building up a solution again is the thing. And it also works when things go wrong, when your data is messy and pipeline fail, or users complain about things, or your product is really great and now you suddenly have tens of thousands of users and things are not working because of scale. And all of those things require raw problem solving, and I think that's the key.
I think it's like this width of problem solving. So usually in a normal software development, you would have a product manager who problem solves and tells you what to do, and then you will have engineers who actually go and build it. I think it's like, to be a good engineer in Foundry, you need to cover the both spectrums. Like you need to be your own product manager and figure out like, this is the outcome I'm going for, how I'm going to get there, like decompose it, break it down to smaller problems, and know how to like fix each of the smaller problems as well. So
yeah, I think that's the forward deployed secret sauce at Palantir and Northslope of actually being there with the customer, having that level of empathy to understand their problems and pain, and but then putting on your engineer hat and actually building a solution.
yeah. So how do you interview for those qualities in engineers?
So we have a couple of different kinds of interviews that we do. There is a technical assessment part and there's a decomp part, which kind of focus on different aspects of these problem-solving ability. But to be honest, the key thing that I'm looking for in an interview is the level of engagement. Are you interested in solving the problem that's been presented to you? Is it a new fun thing that you're excited by? Do you kind of take it, try pull it apart? Do you look at it in different ways? Do you try to do things with it? I think the showing up and the level of engagement is half the battle, in my opinion. Beyond that, there is, yes, are you good at problem solving? But there is definitely a correlation between the two.
I think it's also like, and that's going to come from like, if you're excited, you're probably going to go this way, but like being able to question your choices and going back and see it's like, oh, actually, was that a good choice? Should I look at it from the other angle? And I think like looking at the problem from different angles, and it could come down to empathy of being different users and how that affects them, but like being able to think in all those different personas and how it affects them and design a problem, like solution for the problem that would work for all of them. Like hiring for two scope, let's say data engineer or front-end developer, I think it needs to be somebody who's all, like somebody who can think broader than just their narrow field of expertise and is willing to learn. Many people probably will not know Foundry and will not have experience with that. I think they have to have the will to learn new things and not to just be stuck in their old ways of working.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think someone who is keen on trying out new things and thinks a lot about their personal growth, has a level of criticality. I think those are the important qualities because because that's like Foundry. Foundry is a very powerful tool, and if you try to pattern match things from other tools to Foundry, that's not always going to work. You need to be able to break the mold and try different things.
Kind of not being convinced, well, I do have 20 years of experience in data engineering and I know how to do that. It might not necessarily apply, and I think being humble about, well, there is this whole other part that I can improve on and I can learn on. It's a big part of where things can go wrong as well. So.